everyone. Welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host in Cafe con Leche for the next hour, encouraging you to get social with us online. Tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BroxNet TV or like us on Facebook at Open BroxNet Television. And of course, you can always follow me on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So our first guest is a photographer from the Bronx who recently participated in the Black Lives Matter protest for George Floyd, an African-American who was murdered by a police officer in Minneapolis. And the killing struck the nation, and photographer Carlita Lopez has been capturing the people marching for injustice we should say, while protesting. Hola, Carlita. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, how are you, Rhina?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank God. I'm good.
It's been what, a year since we've had you on?
Yeah, it's been actually I think a year, almost to the day. Because almost to the day. Because I went with Enfoco for an exhibit that I was doing, and that was the last time I went over to Open.
Yeah, but that was a different host. I'm talking about the Friday show. I think it was in the beginning of 2019.
Oh, yeah, that was 2 years ago. Yeah.
That was 2 years ago, right? Yeah. That's what we were trying to figure out. Anyway, The whole point of it is that, look, I'm showcasing the gift that you came bearing. This beautiful photograph that you gave me of Celia Cruz. She sits on my night table.
With a lot of love. I gave that to you with a lot of love.
And you know what? It's been received with a lot of love because she sits on my night table.
Good.
Yeah. So getting back to, or fast forwarding to 2020, right? Which has been a whirlwind of a year at the top of the year. You've been out there protesting. And what I'd like to open up with is just your experience as a protester before a photographer. What's that been like for you?
It's been very emotional. It's been super emotional. I've been to a lot of other protests before, but this one was so different because there's such a sense of unity and change that people want, and it's definitely been super emotional because on top of like everything that's happening, we're also going through a pandemic, so it's been a very weird time, so it's been very emotional and very powerful. Like I'm a different person after going to those protests, for sure.
I would imagine so. And as we go through some of your images, I just want to point out one of the things that just popped out for me, it stood out, is I noticed that in a lot of your images, you have the bridge as a background in some form or another. And I want to say I saw it in at least 5 different images, 5 different scenes, 5 different scenarios. So I don't even know how many protests you've attended, but first share how many protests you've attended, and then share if you, because you express yourself through photography, if you subconsciously are hoping and wishing for some kind of bridging to happen between the police and society within this protest. So I don't know. That's just what stood out for me in observing your images.
Well, I went to 5 days of protests in a row. So every protest was different. And when I took the photos of the bridges, that was on the second day that I went of protest, and we actually walked from Harlem. So that day I walked 6 miles alongside of thousands of people, and we ended up at City Hall, and the cops were blocking us from crossing the Brooklyn Bridge. And then they split us up. We were all in groups, and then they said, "Oh, let's go to the FDR. Let's take over the FDR." And I was super exhausted at that point, but I definitely wanted to capture that because it was such a historical moment, and just to see how many people were in solidarity, and it was just a very beautiful, like, human moment. And it definitely was meaningful to me, the fact that we were in between those 2 bridges, because we were between the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge. So it was a very powerful moment. Like, I couldn't even believe that I was there. We blocked off that FDR for over an hour. So yeah.
So are you telling me that You telling me that some of the marching occurred organically based on the police blocking
Yeah,
off certain walkways?
yeah, absolutely. Because we were a big group, and they they were splitting us up. They wanted us to be, they just wanted to split us up because it was a lot of us, and
Right.
some people ended up walking to Manhattan Bridge and protesting there, and it was just we just split up, and by the time we got to the FDR, like our group was like maybe 50, 60 people. So
So
we
now,
were like,
you answered my question though, right? Because I was trying to figure out. I was like, is she subconsciously trying to bridge the relationship with the police and the people? But no, what you did, right? Well, this is my interpretation: is you were
yeah.
bridging all the people from all the different boroughs, from all the different races coming together.
Yeah, we were all strangers. You know what I mean? We were all strangers, and it was just like it was crazy because I definitely experienced just humanity. Like we were all
Right.
strangers, but we all took care of each other. Because after that, I saw a few people get brutalized. After that, after we got off the bridge, and that was really scary. And like photographers are especially at risk at the protest because the law enforcement doesn't want stuff to
Right.
be recorded.
Right. Right. They don't want the
So
documentation.
right, and it was a very scary moment for me, and I it was crazy. It was just crazy,
So
and
you captured this one image of a sign that said "defund the police," and while I tried to open up with some harmonious interpretation of your work based on what you've shared in your experience, like what's your stance? Where do you stand? I mean, obviously you're out there protesting, but what is your position before we go?
uh, first off, police brutality needs to stop. That's the main thing to me. Definitely, with the NYPD being defunded, I'm in agreement because a lot of like education is defunded. Like we have no arts programs.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
that's a lot of money that they could use for the community. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Not
Like
only
you're
for the
spending all this
community, for the
money.
next generation. Not only for the
Right.
community, for the next generation.
Right. And also, it's like you're spending all this money on equipment. You're using riot gear for peaceful protesters. Like, there's no need for that. You know what I mean? And that money can go to fund, low income communities, families that don't, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many other ways that money could be used. So I'm definitely in agreement of the NYPD getting defunded for sure.
Got it. Well, thank
Yeah,
you for sharing that
of
and
course.
being and not only sharing it, documenting it. And I can't say this with enough. I look forward to seeing your exhibition once
Thank
all
you.
of this is over.
Yeah, it's in the works. I definitely, once COVID is over, I definitely want to have an exhibit. And I definitely want to save these photos because these photos are so important. And it's not just me; it's so many other photographers of color that are creating this narrative for good. You know what I mean? And we're creating our own narrative and we're creating our own story. So it's really an
Absolutely.
honor. It's really an honor, and
Exactly. And
it's
that's the idea.
amazing.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing. Like I've been doing photography for 5 years, and
All right.
I've
Well,
shot a lot of stuff. So
well,
it's wonderful.
it's awesome, and I'm really I'm proud of you, and I thank
Thank
you for
you.
bringing it here to our
Thank
viewers.
you.
And again, we look forward to seeing more of your work,
Yes.
especially once this is all over, and for you guys to view more of her photography and or photographs from the protest. Go to Carlita's Instagram at Carlitas with an
Wait.
underscore way, and check her out on Carlita Lopez Images.com. We have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about the Latino community, how they're coming up together to be a stand against police brutality as well as racism.